We're in Psalm 9, and we're going to cruise right forward where we left off yesterday. David's in trouble again, and we've seen him in lots of trouble. We know David has some pretty good habits of going to God when he's in trouble and anchoring himself, choosing his responses, and waiting on God. And these two Psalms, 9 and 10, they go together. They're a Hebrew acrostic, and they are David kind of reassuring himself and therefore teaching others to do the same in things that are eternally and infinitely true about God, especially in terms of justice, because he is the recipient of injustice. He's experiencing injustice. And so David is going high. He's going all the way up to the peak of the mountain of truth, and he's anchoring himself to things that are forever true about God. And he's anticipating an imminent sense that God could change everything very quickly in terms of his trouble, and that God will someday change things permanently. To some degree, he's looking back at times when God has intervened and brought justice. He's anticipating that could happen at any moment. And if not, then he knows it's going to happen in a big picture, comprehensive way. So verses 3 through 7, we read yesterday, and it's really one direction, though David is kind of bouncing between directions. He's talking about his enemies and God's just dealings with his enemies. Let's read it again. When my enemies are turned back or retreating, they shall fall and perish at thy presence. So he's praying to God, right? Thou, those are references to God. Thou hast maintained my right, my cause. Thou sattest in the throne, judging right. Remember the picture of the throne and judgment. He's going to come back to that. Thou hast rebuked the heathen. Thou hast destroyed the wicked. Thou hast put out their name forever and ever. So again, a past, a present, and a future sense there. Verse 6, O thou enemy. Now in that moment, the translators decided to make that a directional turn towards the enemies, almost rhetorically. O thou enemy, destructions are come to a perpetual end. My question yesterday, which I've clarified now, is the next phrase, and thou hast destroyed cities. Is he still talking to his enemies, or is he talking to God? And the sense in the original language is that he's still talking to God. God has destroyed in three ways he's going to deal with his enemies. And I want you to see this, okay? In verse 5, he deals with their name. Your name in Scripture is your character, your reputation, your testimony, okay? And God's going to destroy their reputation. He's going to deal with their character. That's what David's driving at in verse 5. Verse 6, O thou enemy, destructions are come to a perpetual end. Thou hast destroyed cities. God's going to destroy their accomplishments, okay? Things they've built, and edifices to their own desires, their own systems. He's going to bring down wicked systems. So their character he's going to deal with, their systems, their accomplishments, their achievements he's going to deal with, and their memorial is perished with them. Even their memory is going to be erased. Now that's a pretty powerful set of considerations, because we look at what seem to be impenetrable systems, not only in America, but around the world, globally oppressive systems. And we think, it looks like the wicked have a stronghold that will endure and endure and endure, and that really it's just wicked to the core. But David knows, and he's reminding us, no, there's going to come a moment where God's going to destroy them. He's going to deal with their character. He's going to destroy their accomplishments, their achievements. He's going to break down every unjust system that they've established. And he's going to even erase. Things are going to be made so right and so new and so just that he's going to erase even the memory of those systems and those players, those power players. So, verse 7, but the Lord shall endure forever. So wicked things, temporary. God, forever. Now, again, what does this teach us today? It teaches us that God in his providence and God in his sovereignty has allowed Satan and man-made systems and sin to sustain. Now, you might wonder, if God exists, if he's good, and if he's all-powerful, why wouldn't he intervene? Because by our estimation, it's like, why would God allow injustice to seemingly thrive for so long by our sense of time? And in that question, what we're doing is we're radically downsizing God. And we're making him live by our rational abilities and understandings, where God says, my ways are not your ways. I don't think like you think. I'm higher, bigger, infinitely more omnipotent, I'm omnipresent and omniscient. I know all things, I'm everywhere, I see the beginning from the end. So God gives us a sense of himself that is bigger than we can comprehend. And so here's what you need to remind yourself. When you're looking at the world and going, does God exist? Is God good? You know, the classic argument of the apologists or the atheists are, because there's pain, because there's suffering, because there's injustice, that must mean one of three things. Either God doesn't exist, that's the default argument. Or if he exists, he isn't good. So in other words, he intends for this to happen. If he exists, he must be the author of this. If he exists and if he is good, then the only third option is that he must not be powerful enough to intervene. He must not be able to solve the problems. Now, the problem with those arguments, they seem comprehensive, but there's a fourth alternative. And this is the alternative that Scripture gives us, okay? Yes, he does exist. Yes, he is holy, perfectly good, infinitely, comprehensively good. And yes, he has the power to intervene and has demonstrated that. And David knows this. David is recounting times that he's demonstrated that. So what's the fourth alternative? The fourth alternative is, if God is as big as we believe him and that he describes himself to be, and if he's as all-powerful and all-knowing and infinite as we see him describe himself, then he is able to have a reason for waiting on the execution of justice that is equally as big. In other words, a reason that I can't fully comprehend. If he's above me, then his reasons can be above me. And I don't have to dumb him down and make him give an account to me. I have to accept the fact that he must have a good outcome that is greater in scope than the temporary moment of wickedness, okay? And that's what Scripture teaches us. Scripture teaches us that he is good and his reasons are bigger than we know, and one day we will fully understand. Right now we see through a glass darkly, but one day we will fully understand. So yes, my friend, God exists. Yes, he is good. Yes, he is able to intervene, and because he is waiting, he has a reason bigger than we can know for waiting. He must have a reason that's good. And so we wait, and we trust, and we ground ourselves in the truths that David is grounding himself in. Now, I'm going to pause there because that's some powerful stuff to think about for today, and that surely is enough for today. So, my friend, maybe that's an argument you could share with a friend. Let me remind you, he is good, he can intervene, and he has a good reason for not intervening yet. And it's a big enough reason we can't comprehend it. Have a great Thursday. I plan to. We'll see you tomorrow.